The dimly lit streets were cloaked in an eerie silence as the moon cast an unsettling glow upon the deserted city. Amidst the silence, a flickering neon sign caught the attention of a weary traveler, a beacon of familiarity amidst the desolation. It read McDonald's, the golden arches casting long, distorted shadows on the cracked pavement. Curiosity mingled with hunger, the traveler approached the decrepit fast food restaurant with caution. The once vibrant red and yellow color scheme had faded, the paint chipped and peeling, giving it a haunted appearance. The automatic doors creaked open as if awakening from a deep slumber, revealing a dimly lit interior that seemed frozen in time. Unnerved but determined, the traveler stepped inside. The air was thick with an acrid smell, a blend of stale grease and something far more sinister. The sound of buzzing flies filled the air, echoing through the empty space. It was as if the very essence of the restaurant was trapped in a perpetual state of decay. Approaching the counter, the traveler noticed a lone employee, their uniform tattered and stained. Their eyes were hollow, their movements slow and robotic. As the traveler mustered the courage to speak, the employee turned their head unnaturally, fixing their gaze upon them. A shiver ran down the traveler's spine as they noticed the employee's face, a grotesque visage, skin peeling away to reveal decaying flesh beneath. With trembling hands, the traveler managed to ask for a meal, their voice barely a whisper. The employee's head tilted slightly, a sinister smile forming on their rotting lips. Slowly, they turned away and began preparing the meal. The traveler's heart pounded in their chest, every instinct telling them to flee, but an inexplicable force rooted them to the spot. As the minutes ticked by, the traveler's anxiety grew, a heavy sense of dread settling over them. The smell in the air grew stronger, an unmistakable stench of death. When the employee finally turned around, they held a tray with a meal, a grotesque parody of what should have been a delicious offering. On the tray lay a burger, the bread moldy and disintegrating, the patty blackened and putrid. Phrase clung to the tray, mummified and covered in a strange substance that resembled blood. The traveler's stomach churned with a mixture of fear and revulsion, a voice in their minds screaming for them to run, to escape this macabre nightmare. Before they could act, the employee lunged forward with unnatural speed, their elongated arms reaching out to grab the traveler. Panic surged through their veins as they stumbled backward, desperately scrambling to escape. The haunting silence shattered as the screams of the traveler filled the air, a chorus of terror that would forever haunt the walls of the forsaken McDonald's. Before they could act, the employee lunged forward with unnatural speed, their elongated arms reaching out to grab the traveler. Panic surged through their veins as they stumbled backward, desperately scrambling to escape. The haunting silence shattered as the screams of the traveler filled the air, a chorus of terror that would forever haunt the walls of the forsaken McDonald's. Legend has it that those who enter the haunted McDonald's never leave. The restaurant stands as a chilling reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind the familiar facade. Its crumbling walls serve as a warning to those who dare to venture too close, a testament to the darkness that can seep into even the most innocent of places. So beware the beckoning golden arches, for they may lead you down a path from which there is no escape. In the small town of Blackwood, nestled deep within the eerie forests of northern Pennsylvania, there existed a sinister tale that had been whispered for generations. The legend spoke of a cursed circus that had long since vanished into the annals of time, leaving behind a trail of unspeakable horror and a lasting fear of clones. It was said that the circus had arrived in Blackwood under the cover of darkness, appearing overnight like a haunting specter. The townsfolk awoke to a peculiar sight, a sprawling tent adorned with faded red and white stripes, towering above the treetops, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. An atmosphere of trepidation filled the air as whispers spread through the streets, warning of the malevolent spirits that lurked within. Curiosity mingled with fear, drawing the townspeople towards the mysterious tent. They ventured forth, their hearts pounding in their chests, compelled by an irresistible force that seemed to beckon them closer. As they stepped inside, the air grew heavy with an otherworldly energy, and a sense of foreboding settled upon them like a suffocating fog. The interior of the tent was a labyrinthine maze, twisting and turning with an unsettling precision. The walls were lined with faded portraits of clones, their grotesque grins frozen in time, their eyes devoid of any warmth or humanity. Each step brought the visitors deeper into a realm where nightmares and reality intertwined, where the rules of the natural world ceased to exist. Unbeknownst to the townspeople, the circus had been cursed long ago by a vengeful sorceress who had been betrayed by the circus's ringmaster. Her curse was insidious, infecting the very fabric of the circus, transforming its performers into nightmarish entities driven by an insatiable hunger for fear and despair. The clones, once entertainers of joy and laughter, became twisted abominations, their once colorful and playful demeanor warped into something altogether more sinister. Their smiles stretched unnaturally wide, revealing rows of jagged, razor-sharp teeth. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly malevolence, capable of penetrating the very souls of those unfortunate enough to cross their path. As the townsfolk stumbled deeper into the maze, they became entangled in a macabre performance. The clones appeared and disappeared with disconcerting ease, their laughter echoing through the halls, their presence both menacing and unpredictable. With each encounter, the townspeople were tormented, their fears magnified and exploited in the cruelest of ways. The once courageous men and women of Blackwood were reduced to trembling shadows of their former selves, haunted by the grinning faces that had infiltrated their nightmares. No longer able to distinguish between reality and illusion, they were driven to the brink of madness, their minds teetering on the edge of the abyss. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months as the cursed circus tightened its grip on Blackwood. The town's once vibrant streets were now desolate, shrouded in an oppressive silence. Families were torn apart, their loved ones lost to the depths of the cursed tent. But amidst the terror and despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. A brave few unaffected by the curse's grip ventured into the heart of the circus armed with ancient knowledge and a determination to break the curse that had befallen their town. Through treacherous corridors and shadow-filled chambers, they fought their way towards the heart of the circus, facing twisted horrors and relentless nightmares. The battle raged on, their willpower pitted against the dark magic that fueled the cursed circus. Finally, in a climactic confrontation, the sorceress who had cast the curse was confronted. Her powers were great, but the strength of unity and love that the remaining townsfolk had forged in their struggle proved even greater. With a final surge of power, the sorceress was defeated, and the curse that had plagued Blackwood was lifted. As the circus tent collapsed in on itself, the townsfolk emerged battered and broken, but triumphant. They vowed to never forget the horrors they had endured, to keep the memory alive so that future generations would remain vigilant. Years passed, and the legend of the cursed circus gradually faded from memory, becoming nothing more than a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. But in the dark corners of Blackwood, faint echoes of laughter and distant strains of circus music could still be heard, a chilling reminder of the clones that once ruled the town's nightmares. In the quiet suburban neighborhood of Willowbrook, a young girl named Emily had always possessed an unexplained unease around clones. Their painted faces and exaggerated features unsettled her, sending a shiver down her spine whenever she encountered one. Despite her fear, she couldn't resist the allure of a mysterious traveling circus that had set up camp on the outskirts of town. One fateful evening, as dusk settled over Willowbrook, Emily's curiosity got the better of her. She ventured to the edge of town, where the circus tent stood, beckoning like a siren's call. The air was thick with an ominous energy as she approached the entrance, the faint sound of haunting circus music drifting through the night. Emily cautiously stepped inside, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. The interior was dimly lit, casting eerie shadows across the tent's canvas walls. Rows of empty seats stretched out before her, and the silence was deafening. Suddenly, a flickering spotlight illuminated the center ring, and Emily's heart skipped a beat. From the darkness emerged a single figure, a clone. He wore a tattered, mismatched costume, and had a twisted grin painted across his face. His eyes were wide and glassy, devoid of any warmth. As the clone began to perform, Emily's fear intensified. His movements were exaggerated and jerky, each step accompanied by a jarring cackle that seemed to reverberate through her very soul. She felt trapped, unable to tear her gaze away from the horrifying spectacle unfolding before her. But then something changed. The clone's laughter grew more maniacal, his grin stretching impossibly wide. Emily's heart raced as she realized the clone's gaze was fixed on her. Panic surged through her veins, urging her to flee, but an invisible force rooted her to the spot. With a sudden burst of speed, the clone darted toward Emily, his outstretched hands reaching for her. She let out a piercing scream, her voice echoing through the tent. But in that moment, the nightmare came to an abrupt halt. The lights flickered back on, and the clone froze in place, his eyes locked with Emily's. She glanced around to find a concerned crowd of onlookers staring back at her, their expressions filled with confusion. The circus had been nothing more than an empty, abandoned tent for years, a mere relic of the past. Emily's heart pounded as she realized the truth. The clone had been a hallucination, a product of her deepest fears and anxieties. But the terror that had gripped her remained all too real. From that day forward, Emily's fear of clones intensified, consuming her every waking thought. The mere sight of a painted face sent her into a panic, and she could never truly escape the haunting memory of the sinister clone from the circus that never was.